Cinema in minutes. In today's video, we will be going through a war action film entitled The Battle of Jongsari. There will be spoilers ahead, chill out and enjoy. The movie is set in 1950 during the war between North and South Korea. General MacArthur deploys diversionary attacks in Wonsan, Jamunjeon, Kunsan, and Jongsari. A day before what is to be known as Incheon Landing, a ship called Moonson heads for the beach of Jongsari, carrying a total of 772 student soldiers. The ship is sailing through rough waters due to a storm. Myung-joon tells the owner of the ship that visibility is too low. He comments that it's the worst day for his plan and he should have waited after the storm. Myung-joon argues that they should have arrived earlier but instead wasted a day on the port. We find below deck the inexperienced student soldiers, most of whom are vomiting from seasickness. Ha Ryan comments that seasickness will definitely kill the lot of them before the communists do. While watching him mess with his rifle, Ha Ryan discloses to Gae-tae that he heard his father was a hunter, so he must be used to firing a gun. Gae-tae agrees but disputes that shooting an animal is different from killing a man. This confuses Ha Ryan since he believes everyone's an animal anyway. Chan Na-eon expresses out loud that Daegu boys never rode a boat, which is why they're getting sick. He asks Sung Pil where he was from, to which the other guy answers Jeonnampo. It turns out he's a North Korean defector. They ran to South Korea since their family mill was taken over by thugs. An American diplomat asks Maggie how she knew about the Incheon Landing, and she replies that not a lot of correspondents don't know about it. He comments that he hopes that the communists are less informed as the correspondents, since if Incheon fails then the US will give up on South Korea. Myung-joon admit that warships and fighter planes were supposed to attack first, then they'd land on the beach. He begs the owner of the ship to reconsider his stance. If they don't reach Jongsari before the sun rises, then they can consider the battle over before it even begins. The owner of the ship criticizes those in power for sending student soldiers when they're so unprepared. Maggie is walking next to General Stevens, pleading the case of the student soldiers heading for Jongsari. She points out that there are experienced American forces in the peninsula, so why are they sending kids to battle the North Korean army? He informs her that 786 American soldiers died just the night before trying to hold the Noktung River line, so he asks her to tell him who should he send. She's unable to answer but asks him if the student soldiers know they're on a suicide mission. They anchor Moonson close to the shore. Myung-joon is still trying to reach Endicott for support but is getting nothing. The North Korean army is expecting them and immediately bombs the ship. The ship jolts and the student soldiers are in hysterics. Some are immediately deployed, but since the North Koreans are anticipating them, they start to shoot. They can't continue or else they all will surely die. The ship's crew and Sung Pil volunteer to go to shore and anchor the ropes so that they can get to the beach of Jongsari easier. As some of the student soldiers reach the shore, they yell charge and run through landmine-littered sand. Some of them are hit either by the landmine or bullets. Everything is in chaos. A lot of them are either killed or injured. Onslaught air support arrives and starts dropping bombs on the enemy camp. They regroup. The next day, Myung-joon orders the special ops team to flank right of Tuka while the machine gunner should be on top of the hill. The 3rd and 4th companies shall move for diversion as the rest of the men cover fire. Tae-sok tells Myung-joon that he will take the left side of Tuka, refusing to bring any of the student soldiers with him. Chan Na-eon orders Gae-tae and Sung Pil to accompany him while Ha Ryan volunteers, as he claims he was the best shooter and fastest runner during their boot camp. Gae-tae's tasked to kill the machine gunner as the rest cover fire. He hits the machine gunner in one shot. Meanwhile, Tae-sok kills the other machine gunner with a stick of dynamite. Chan Na-eon signals to Myung-joon that all the machine gunners are dead, so Myung-joon orders the rest of the battalion full assault. The North Korean soldiers attempt to retreat but are intercepted by the rest of the battalion. Those remaining give up as they are overwhelmed by the student soldiers. The high land is secured. Everybody goes back to shore to gather their fellow men who were killed as well as recover some of their things. Sung Pil finds and reads a letter. It turns out some of the North Korean soldiers were South Korean students abducted and forced to wear the North Korean military uniform. They were taken to the front line to fight. Maggie is interviewing Chun Bong regarding Myung-joon. It's mentioned that he graduated from the Korean Military Academy and only worked for troop information and education. Maggie asks if that's the case, why was he assigned to lead the attack on Jongsari? Chun Bong replies that he had volunteered after hearing stories from the communist prisoner of war, POWs. Maggie continues if the student soldiers successfully completed their training before being deployed. He now inquires about Maggie's article, which she avoids. She asks instead how the troops at Jongsari will be supported. He rebuts that if the Incheon Landing fails, everything is over. She accuses him of having no plan to support the attack, and he deflects her accusation by putting the blame on Myung-joon if it does fail. That night, after repairing the radio, Myung-joon attempts to reach HQ again to no avail. Chan Nyeon informs him that before retreating he had overheard one of the North Korean radiomen mention that 2 of their regiments will deploy from Pohang the next day, including 4 tanks. Myung-jun decides to attack the incoming regiments instead of waiting for them to arrive. They will seal a tunnel to buy time until evac ships arrive. They'll plant Soviet-made explosives which they had confiscated from the North Korean soldiers. Back at HQ, they find out that Incheon Landing was a success. While celebrating, another soldier announces that 2 regiments from the North Korean 5th Division Army are heading for Jongsari. General Stevens informed Maggie that the US Navy did send out a ship for those in Jongsari after finding out that the Incheon Landing was a success. However, because of the weather, they turned back. Maggie points out that those in Jongsari won't last long. He promises that he'll make sure no one who didn't have to die did on that beach, but it's the best that he can do given the current situation. Ha Ryan finds a knife and on his way to retrieve it accidentally steps on a landmine. Gae-tae calls for Tae-sok, who guesses that it fell when the ground moved. He tells the other to step back, then instructs Ha Ryan to take his foot off so that Tae-sok can step on it instead. Ha Ryan refuses, but Tae-sok tells him that it's an order. They make the switch. He reveals that it was actually a tank mine and orders Ha Ryan to carry it. As they reach the tunnel, Myung-jun assigns Gae-tae to be the lookout while the rest start setting up the explosives. Not long after, Gae-tae finds the incoming North Korean regiments and runs to inform Myung-jun. While evacuating, Ha Ryan finds a detonator loose. Tae-sok commands Ha Ryan and the rest to leave so that he can fix it himself. With no time to escape, Tae-sok has no choice but to face the incoming enemies. He pretends to lead them towards enemy camp. He stops close to the explosives and signals Myung-jun to detonate it, but the other man refuses, not until he's out of the way. Tae-sok, upset, turns to the enemy and starts shooting them instead. Myung-jun has no choice but to set off the explosives since Tae-sok is shot at and killed. After the explosion, North Korean soldiers flee but are immediately shot at by the student soldiers. They have no choice but to move forward, and with the small space in the tunnel, the student soldiers easily overpower them. Jong-yu is hurt and a medic attempts to look into his injury, but he refuses. Sung-pil offers to help instead. Man-duk and Jong-yu are unable to look him in the eyes as he fixes Jong-yu up. Man-duk admits that Jong-yu is actually a girl. She switched with her twin brother since he was the family's first son after 7 generations and was told by her father to make the switch. Jong-yu denies this and insists that it was her idea. She begs Sung-pil not to report her. While trying to find food for the rest of the student soldiers, Sung-pil runs into Jae-pil, his cousin. After an emotional reunion, Jae-pil reveals to the other North Korean soldiers that Sung-pil had moved to the south with his family. Sung-pil agrees but claims to have come back shortly after. The other North Korean soldiers start to suspect him now. As they stand, Ha Ryan and the rest come out of the shadows and threaten to kill them if they move. Sung-pil orders them not to since they can't make any noise. They take the North Korean soldiers as well as Jae-pil and lead them deep into the woods. Ha Ryan has been jealous of Sung-pil since the beginning and starts accusing him of being a spy when he suggests that they tie the North Korean soldiers and leave them there. Ha Ryan refuses and makes further speculations about Sung-pil's loyalty. Ha Ryan threatens to kill Jae-pil, and seeing everybody distracted, one of the North Korean soldiers makes his escape. Ha Ryan shoots him and Jae-pil grabs the gun from him and warns them he'll kill him too. Gae-tae shoots him on the neck instead. Mourning Jae-pil, Sung-pil finally tells them why he enlisted. His whole family was bombed on their way to South Korea and only he survived. He wanted revenge for their death. As a peace offering, Ha Ryan offers a potato to Sung-pil. He shares his story about being the 5th out of 11 siblings. He was raised by relatives who had no kids of their own. He came back when he was 7, but he claims they never liked him because he wasn't raised with his siblings. They treated him differently. He hopes to come back as a hero and be treated like family. Combat ration finally arrives the next day and everyone celebrates. Myung-jun informs them that the evacuation ship will arrive the next day, but North Korean soldiers are also on their way to attack them again. As expected, North Korean soldiers arrive while the evacuation ship carrying General Stevens and Maggie is still far from shore. Myung-jun sends out a flare to let them know that the North Korean soldiers have arrived as well. Artillery in the evacuation ship provides cover as the student soldiers run to the beach. Myung-jun contacts them and asks them to come closer, but they refuse. They're deploying landing boats, but it's the closest they can get, so the rest has to swim aboard. North Korean tanks focus their firepower on the student soldiers running to shore. Those who are able to board the landing boats are immediately pulled into the ship as they're closing the dock. Myung-jun orders them not to close it. Back at shore, more student soldiers are scrambling to escape while being shot at by North Korean forces. Myung-jun heads for the bridge and demands them to open the dock again. The ship captain refuses since the tide is ebbing and they have to depart at once. Chan Na-eon orders every student soldier to escape while the cadres are to stay and try to cover fire. Ha-ryan returns to help the cadres and hands Sung-pil a letter that's meant for his family. Sung-pil decides to stay as well and instructs Man-duk to give it instead. Gae-tae, Jong-yu, and Man-duk escape with the others. As they're climbing aboard the ship, the rope Jong-yu is holding on gives and she almost falls. Man-duk reaches for her and begs for her to hold on, but she's already too weak from her injuries. She lets go as General Stevens orders the captain to start the engine. The cadres are dead. It's just Sung-pil and Ha-ryan left. The North Korean soldiers are closing in. Ha-ryan asks if he thinks they can go home and Sung-pil answers him that they can. Sung-pil stands up to fire at those closing in but is killed after firing one shot. Ha-ryan pulls the pin on the grenade he's holding and throws it towards the box of explosives that's close by. The huge explosion also kills the North Korean soldiers closing in. We find out that Myung-joon takes the fall after the failure of the battle in Jongsari and the number of student soldiers' casualties. General Stevens informs an incredulous Maggie of the decision. She tells him that she'll make sure the world knows of what happened in Korea, but General Stevens tells her that everything done in Korea was done to protect the American way of life. The movie ends with an old man Duke returning to the beach of Jongsari, calling out for his friends who died, and reminiscing everything that happened while they were there. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more videos like this and to help the channel grow.